Okay, in the same vein, we have a impact investor expert from KPMG, Tania Carnegie. She's next, and she's going to talk to us about her efforts. She started off in corporate social responsibility. Come on up. And I was told she just got appointed to an important advisory board by the federal government, so that's very cool in this area. So, Tania?
Great, thank you so much. I believe that business and finance provide solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. And I am really excited to be here today to share with you why I so deeply know this to be true based on experiences that I've had. To start, let's go back about 12 years. I was living a very comfortable life here in Toronto. I had a great, well-defined career path at my firm. Things were great. Now, that summer, my husband and I were traveling to rural Kenya with the Canadian charitable organization WE, that some of you may know as Free the Children, and we were interested to see the impact of our philanthropy. Now, how many of you have been on a similar trip to a developing country? Anyone? A few people. Well, one of the things that we couldn't have anticipated was just how deeply this experience would affect us. In fact, there were a few unintended consequences, in particular 2 epiphanies that I experienced that fundamentally changed my life and the course of my career. Now, we had never done anything like this before, so we thought we should do a little bit of homework. But the documentaries that we watched and the articles that we read, well, that left us with a fairly grim image. Fortunately, it didn't take long after we arrived in Kenya to realize that that didn't reflect the reality. Similarly, we went to Kenya hoping that somehow we would be helpful to the villages that we visited. So you can imagine how humbling it was for us to realize that these communities were far more helpful to us than we were able to reciprocate. We were so warmly welcomed into every community that we visited. And the women that we met in particular were so fantastic. They were full of energy and pride and passion. And they were very open in explaining what their daily life was like, which I'm sure you can imagine was filled with a great deal of hardship. But they did not complain. And rather than focus on that hardship, what I noticed was how they really craved opportunity. These women wanted the opportunity for their children to go to school to get a good education. And they wanted the opportunity for meaningful work so they could make a better life for their family. I really thought it interesting how entrepreneurship resonated so deeply with them. And one of the key things that I learned on this trip was the dignity in being a consumer. Nobody we met was looking for a handout. They weren't interested in that. In fact, the opposite. They were so passionate about telling us about the things they were able to buy for their children or for their household with the additional income they were earning through micro-businesses that Free the Children helped them to set up. So this got me thinking about how business could help lift people out of poverty, whether it was in Kenya or Canada. And I really started to think about a role that I could have in helping make this a reality. Here comes my first epiphany, the first unintended consequence of that trip. I realized that I needed to change my career path. Slight problem. That career path that I wanted to follow, it didn't exist at my firm at the time. And quite frankly, I couldn't find that type of career path at any other company. And I started to feel really frustrated at the feeling that I had to make a choice between a career that I loved in business and the difference that I wanted to make, the difference that I knew I could make. And I really knew that there had to be an answer, and I was on a bit of a mission to figure it out. At the same time, I had some ideas about things that my own firm could be doing to have a greater impact on society. So I took all of these ideas to our CEO, and the result of our conversations was amazing. I ended up getting my dream job. I ended up taking on a brand new leadership role at KPMG, what would become our national community leader strategy. This became one of the core pillars of our business strategy and was really focused on how we leveraged our expertise and resources to drive social change and sustainability. And we launched the strategy in 2009 in the wake of the financial crisis of 2008, which of course was a real game changer in so many different ways. It changed the way that we thought about the role of business and finance. We also realized the extent of the impact that both had on our daily lives. And we certainly saw the impact that it had on charitable organizations and nonprofits as they were dealing with increased demand for their services and ever increasingly constrained philanthropy budgets. And what we started noticing were some really innovative things happening, innovative ways that organizations were looking at taking in funding. Some were even doing creative things like issuing community bonds. Now, this was my first taste of something called impact investing. And of course, things were changing in the corporate landscape as well, in the realization that the singular focus on trying to generate returns for shareholders, well, that meant that key risks and opportunities were being overlooked with some disastrous results. And there was a loud cry for a reboot of capitalism. Now, around this time, I was taking an executive education program at Harvard Business School, and we were studying global public companies that had combined profit and purpose objectives. And one company that we studied really stood out in my mind, and this was a global healthcare company. And they were really interested in how they could expand into rural India. Now, this was a good move for the company from a market perspective, but it also provided benefits for the members of the communities, in that at that point, they didn't have affordable, ready access to healthcare and hygiene products. But what really impressed me was the way that the company was going about this. This was far more than just a strategy to sell more stuff to more people. They were looking at how they could do this in a way that had the dignity of their customer at the center, and how they could come up with a unique business model reflecting the unique situation to really make this of benefit for the community and for business. And to me, this is exactly what business is all about. Now, following this, I started to hear a lot more about impact investing, which quite simply is an investment approach that strives to generate both financial returns and social and environmental impact. And it seemed that investors were interested in the kind of thing that the companies I studied at Harvard, that they were doing. It started to become clearer to me what my role in all of this could be, which led to my second epiphany. And as a result, I launched a new business initiative at KPMG called Impact Ventures, where we look to help companies and investors achieve that dual purpose and profit objective. And impact investing is a core focus area. And I've got to be honest with you, I don't really think that impact investing is that disruptive of an idea at all. In fact, I suspect that many of you here today are holding impactful investments in your portfolio without even realizing it. Perhaps you've invested in an emerging market fund, or maybe renewable energy. These are the types of things that have the potential to create real value for people as well as for business. The impact is an unintended consequence of your investment activity. Now imagine if we were all more intentional about looking for that impact in the things that we invest in. This would literally unlock trillions of dollars that would go towards helping advance social progress, and we would all benefit. According to the 2017 Edelman Trust Barometer, which is a global annual survey that evaluates the level of trust in business and other public institutions, more than 3/4 of Canadians surveyed believe it's possible for a company to increase its profits and improve the economic and social conditions in the communities that it operates in. The survey also indicates that the attributes that increase trust in business include things like a company's actions to protect the environment or to address social needs through everyday business activities. What this tells us is that putting an impact lens on businesses and on investing is a pretty natural thing. In fact, it's the kind of thing that we expect from business. And to be clear, we're not talking about philanthropy here. I think philanthropy is incredibly important, but this isn't about donating money. Impact investing is a pragmatic approach based on sound finance fundamentals. And it's a big tent. You can apply that impact lens across industries, across geographies, across all asset classes, for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. You start by looking at the financial risks and the potential returns associated with an investment, and how that aligns with your broader financial goals, as you would normally do. Next comes the new part. Look at the company that you're thinking about investing in. How does it earn its revenue? What are the products and services it offers? How are they helping to improve people's lives? These are the kinds of things that impact investors look at. To give you some examples of potentially impactful types of companies, there's a number of fintechs in North America that are focused on offering wealth management services for everybody, not just wealthy people. In particular, some of them are targeting young people and lower-income families, recognizing that they also have a need to build up savings, build up their financial acumen and their financial resilience. M-Pesa is an international example. It is a platform that allows for the transfer of money between mobile phones. And what this has done is helped millions of people who earn just a few dollars a day enter the financial system for the first time, helping them to build up savings and reducing the risk of theft of hard-earned cash. Impact investing has been growing in popularity over the years, with all different kinds of investors getting involved. Certainly family offices and foundations have been helping to lead the charge. But institutional investors are also starting to participate. We're seeing insurance companies, some pension funds in Europe, even some banks are starting to offer services to their clients in this area. And people like you and me are investing our money. According to a recent survey, more than 60% of high net worth families and 85% of millennials surveyed indicated they're currently active in impact investing or plan to be within the next few years. In my experience, there's two key reasons why people get involved with impact investing: opportunity and efficiency. From an opportunity perspective, investors feel that that impact lens gives them a different way of looking at a company that gives them an advantage. For example, I know some impact investors who are really focused on understanding what the future may hold, what the world will look like in 20, 30, 50 years. In particular, understanding what some of the unintended consequences from a social, environmental, and economic perspective will be. So today, they're looking at companies that are doing research in this area or trying to come up with solutions to these challenges, or better yet, ways to head them off. From an efficiency perspective, well, there's a number of investors who are really just looking to take a very holistic approach to everything that they do and have more alignment between the things they believe in and their values and the way that they spend their money. Let's take the example of a foundation. Say this foundation is focused on finding a cure for cancer. Under the traditional model, that foundation might grant money to a university researcher to support the work that they're doing in this area. And then you've got the investment team here that is investing the foundation's endowment with the goal of growing those assets to make future grants possible. Fair enough. But what if that investment team, in addition to looking for investments that will yield the return needed, what if they looked at investing in companies that are promoting health and wellness? That way, all of the foundation's activities will be supporting its ultimate goal. And this is, in fact, what a growing number of foundations in Canada and the United States are doing. Now, investors who take this approach aren't suffering in the financial returns department. Tonic conducted a survey last year of 51 of its members. These are high net worth individuals with cumulative assets of over $1.6 billion, and they've all pledged to invest all of their wealth in impact investments. 86% of them indicated they had financial return expectations either at or better than market rate, and the strong indication are that they're achieving them. According to the Workplace Purpose Index that was conducted last year, 85% of purpose-led companies showed an increase in growth, whereas 42% of non-purpose-led companies showed a decline in revenue. That's an interesting perspective for investors and corporate executives to consider generally. I see that I am almost at my time here. I hope that you take at least two things away from our time together today. Number one, I shared with you the epiphanies that I experienced that were born out of frustration and opportunity. There's a growing number of investors who are feeling similar frustration and sense of opportunity at a much larger scale. Number two, the ability to generate financial returns and social and environmental impact are not mutually exclusive. In fact, there's a growing number of investors who believe that impact enhances returns. I started off by telling you that I believe that business and finance provide solutions to some of the world's biggest problems, and I hope I've given you a few reasons today to believe the same thing too. Thank you so much.